Hey Mike, hope you're doing well. So that was the famous bebop tune Donna Lee by Charlie Parker or Miles Davis, depending on who you ask. And it's definitely an interesting tune for the mandolin, given that it's written in A flat. And A flat and also all the other horn keys don't tend to usually line up so well, given that we don't have as many open strings available to us. But curious to hear your thoughts on the fingerings that I chose for that one. I find that a big challenge with bebop is the enclosures tend to have interesting chromatic choices, and typically they try to, or they offer you options where you could move your index finger down, something that you typically don't like, this downward motion of your index finger. So I'll pivot up usually with my pinky. And so yeah, it's interesting when you have a lot of those chromatic elements involved as well. I tried to keep the breaks as natural and improvised as possible. I did a few takes and I picked the one that I felt like was the most fleshed out, but definitely feel as though there were some ideas that I didn't fully explore or that I didn't fully explore well. Again, it's all part of the fun of it. I'm sure there were some moments where I was just noodling and trying desperately to find the chord tones, and I hope that that came out in my playing. I am very conscious of the way that 3s and 7s voice lead, and that it's important to have those tones in as many of the changes as possible so that the audience can hear where the song is going. I just happened to pick a tune that was rather complicated harmonically. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I found that, at least with me in my practice, learning jazz tends to be like a black box. You listen to a lot of tunes, you learn a whole bunch of bebop heads, you transcribe a whole bunch of tunes, and over time, little bits and pieces start making their way into your vocabulary. One thing that I really like is the arpeggios with an approach note. So you might have seen that a couple of times in my solo where I would do something like, and that I really like. I feel like that's part of Don Sternberg's playing as well too. So yeah, curious on your thoughts on playing bebop. Curious on how you feel that style differs on the mandolin from something like regular, from swing playing or from gypsy jazz repertoire. And hopefully I'll have some more songs for you in the coming weeks. I also have ornithology down, but I thought this would be a good one to start off with. It's daunting. I really feel like from every point, as I get into it, you just open up a world of possibilities, and it's a question of what choices do you make. So that'll be the start. I had one other question. I'm going to actually go to the mandolin for this one here. So I'm taking the tune On the Sunny Side of the Street, and I was curious on your thoughts on this way of approaching comping. A friend of mine mentioned that something I might consider interesting would be to only play the 3s and the 7s, or to at least start my voicings off by building them from the 3s and the 7s. So to give you an idea, the tune starts on a C major, it goes to an E7, then it goes to an F, then it goes to a B half diminished, which I guess I could play like this, and then it goes to an E7, then it goes to an A minor, E7, to a D minor, G7, and a C. So what he would say for that would be to think, okay, C major could also be played at a C major 7 or even a C major 9, but in this case we'll just do 2-note voicings. So if we just do the 3 and the 7, we'd have we'd go to the E7, which would be the D and the G sharp. We can go to the F, which would then be the E and the A. If we go to the B half diminished, we realize it has the same 2 3s and 7s as the E7, and then for the A minor 7 to a D7 to a D minor 7 to the G7 and back to the C. And so I find it an interesting way of approaching thinking about how the song moves and changes, and I'm curious if you have an approach for learning the harmonic structure of a tune, because I feel like that was definitely the challenge for me on Donna Lee. A lot of it was me following the iReal Pro lead sheet, and I mean, I'd love to have it be internalized. As you can see on this tune, I actually listed out in Roman numerals, what the function of each chord was in relation to the root key, and I found that made it a lot easier to transpose, and as well to understand what's happening in each melodic cell. And so yeah, I'm curious about that, and I know I've already bombarded you with a million questions, but one of my all-time heroes is Julian Lodge, I got to see him play live in Montreal before all this happened, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. I know that you've taught with him in the past. I'm curious if he ever mentioned his approach to learning jazz improvisation, and if you have any good stories, that would be a huge kick. Anyway, really excited to hear what you have to say. You always have really good insights, and hope you're doing well, and I'll have another tune for you in the next little bit. Take care, Mike.